Hey guys, so today I'm gonna be doing a Q&A. So I was supposed to do this Q&A when I was pregnant. So obviously I didn't do it. If I'm doing it now, I mean, I guess we could just pretend that I'm pregnant still. Um, Ignore the TV. I'm gonna turn it off right now just because Bella's asleep. I just finished putting her to sleep, and I was like, you know what? Why not just do the video? So, okay, this video, I was supposed to do it when I was like 6 months pregnant. Bella's 3 months, so I'm just gonna answer these questions. I wrote them down because I'm using my phone to record. Obviously, I want to get a camera, but hopefully I get many for my birthday. Ew, what was that? Anyways, hopefully I get money for my birthday and we have enough to buy a camera. So let's get started. Okay, so the first question is, how did you find out you were pregnant and how did you feel? I found out I was pregnant because I missed my period and I was like, no. So I was like, no. And then I told Mark, I was like, I missed my period. He's like, you're gonna get it. So then I let a week go by and I didn't get it. So I was like, I missed my period, like I haven't gotten it. And he was like, you're gonna get it. And then I didn't get it. So literally last year, this month, I found out I was pregnant. So I bought the pregnancy test August 27th and I took them, but I didn't pay attention to them. I was like, you know, whatever, like I'm not even pregnant or whatever. So then I put them back in my backpack, and then the next day I was like, oh my god, like I gotta throw them out before I go to school. So then I seen the test and it said pregnant and I was like, excuse me, what the fuck? So then I took another test. Oh, it's fucking hot in here. So then I took the other one because I had about like 2 or 3, I'm not sure. So I took the other one and then it said pregnant and I was like, what the fuck? So I started freaking out and I was like, oh my god, like this cannot be, like I cannot be pregnant, like my mom will kill me. So then I was like, so I was like stressing and then I was like, oh my god, like I'm gonna die, like who the fuck do I think I am getting pregnant? And then so I went I was already late to school because, you know, I was always late to school. Like I didn't give a fuck. I gave no fucks about being late to school because, you know what, fuck school. But whatever, you know, I still go because I gotta get that education or whatever. So then I was already late, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go to CVS and I'm gonna buy some real tests, you know, some real tests. Sorry, I got a message. So I'm gonna buy some real tests, not some 99-cent store tests. So then I was like, I'm not gonna believe it. So then I got them and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take them after school or whatever. So I went to school thinking that I was gonna be a bad bitch holding it together or whatever. And then the moment that I entered that motherfucking gate, I started bursting out crying and I was like, oh, you fucking little bitch. So then I went to the restroom and I was crying my heart out because I was like, I'm pregnant, like oh my god, I cannot believe it. Okay, so then this lady came in. She was like, Diana, come out. And I was like, excuse me, I'm not Diana. Like, excuse me, I am not Diana. Sorry to break your heart. But then she was like, okay, like come out, you know, like what's wrong? And I was like, nothing's wrong, leave me alone. And then she was like, just tell me. And I was like, you know what, I'm pregnant. And then she's like, when did you find out? And I was like, this morning. I was crying. I was like, this morning, like and then she was like, okay, we'll go to Roosevelt because they have a Planned Parenthood, because the like public schools that are big like that have Planned Parenthood. Like Garfield have Planned Parenthood. Some other schools have Planned Parenthood too. The only school that I know that don't have Planned Parenthood is Mendez, and I don't know what other schools because like I didn't attend to any other school, but I only know about Garfield because, well, it's like right there. Like when you pass by it, there's like a nurse and it like has Planned Parenthood. So I was like, okay. So, and then when you search it up online too, when you search it up online, sorry, there was an ad. When you search it up online, Planned Parenthood, it comes up on Garfield. So yeah. And then she took me to Roosevelt, and then they did the test. They made me fill out some paperwork, and I was like, and then she was like, can you pee in this cup? And I was like, sure. So then I gave her my pee or whatever, and then like 10 minutes later she called me and she's like, you're pregnant. And I was like, and I started crying. I was crying so bad, like I was like it was just so horrible, you guys. So then she was talking to me about my options. She was like, you can abort it, you can keep it, you could put it up for adoption, it's really up to you. And I was like, girl, it ain't up to me. My family is gonna kill me. That's what's gonna happen. So I was terrified. So then I sent a picture to Marquitos. Just kidding, don't ever call him that. Mark. I sent him a picture or whatever, and then the due date, my due date was April 20th, and he was like, oh, that's my baby, that's my baby. And I was like, okay. And then that day, August 28th, it was my mom's birthday. Okay, so keep this in mind, it's my mom's birthday. I just found out I was pregnant. Okay, so then I went back to school, and then my teacher was like, it looks like you haven't eaten in days. You look like a pobrecita. I was like, oh, excuse me. And then I was like so pale, like from crying. Like my eyes were so red, my face was so red, and everything. Like I looked, I was a mess that day. And then yeah, and the first person that I told was my friend. I don't know if she wants her name in here, so I'm not gonna put her name in here, but she was the first person that I told in there. She was like the first person to know in there. So then she was like, oh my god, like how do you feel about it? And I was like, I don't know, like, ew, why is my hair doing that? It's like those fucking shows, like what the fuck. Anyways, yeah. And then that day I went home, and I didn't want to go home. I was so scared. I was like, I don't want to go home. Like, I don't want to go home at all. And then I don't know what time I got there. I don't even know what happened that day. Yeah, I don't know what happened that day. Oh well. Okay. And then later that day, my mom came home from work, and I was like, I'm gonna die. And then my sister left because she went to go pick something up from my grandma's house. And then that was the moment that I was like, I gotta get my balls together and fucking tell my mom. So here I go, thinking that I'm not gonna burst out crying or whatever. And then like a minute in, I'm like, I have to talk to you. And she was like, what did you do now? And I was like, and I started crying. Like I started bursting out crying. And then she was like, what did you do? What did you do? And I was just crying. And she started crying, and I was like, there, she knows. She fucking knows. So she knew because I started crying. I didn't even have to say it. So then when she started crying, I gave her the paper that says that I'm pregnant. Your daughter is pregnant. Okay, I gave her that paper. And then she was like, I trusted you, like how could you do this? And then I even felt worse. I was like, like it was my heart ripped out. Like my heart ripped out because I did that to my mom. Like I fucking hurt my mom really bad when I got pregnant, because honestly, like that hurt my mom a lot, and I fucked up really bad doing that. But you know, Bella's my biggest blessing or whatever. How did I feel? Okay, me being pregnant, it was a really big thing for me because I personally did not see myself having a baby anytime soon. Like I just saw myself being that aunt, you know, like before Bella, I would babysit everyone's kid, you know, like I would babysit my sister's kids. I would babysit like I would babysit all of them, you know, like I would even sleep over sometimes at my sister's house. So I just saw myself doing that until I like got my shit together and stuff. But apparently God had other plans for me, and honestly, I do not regret Bella. Like, I don't regret her at all. But at that moment, in that moment when I found out I was pregnant, I felt so alone. Like, people were forcing me. They were like my friends. I had told my friends, and they were like, "You have to keep her. Like, that's your fault for having sex and all that." And I felt horrible, you know. And then other people were telling me like, "You should abort it. Like, you should abort it. Like, you have your whole life ahead of you." And I didn't know. Like, I was so confused. Like, I was so confused. I felt so alone in that moment. In those moments, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I wanted for myself or my baby. So I had a lot to think about. I had my future to think about. And honestly, Bella has not changed my future. So in that moment, I wasn't thinking right. You know, I was like, Bella's gonna be like in a distraction. You know, I'm already going to a continuation school and stuff. So I was scared. I felt so alone. Like, my friends that were closest to me, you know, they were pushing me to do things, and they were pushing me to like, it was just a whole thing, you know, like they were telling me like, that's your fault, like you shouldn't have sex, so now you have to deal with the consequences and all that. And I just felt so alone. Like, I didn't talk to anybody. Like, I didn't want to talk to nobody. I just wanted to be alone. Like, I would just come home and cry all the time. And then my mom was like, you have to make a decision about what you want. And there was a Monday coming up that we had the day off, so I had to decide before then. So I had a lot on my mind, and I was really scared because my grandma scares me. Like, she scares me. So my main thought was, what is she gonna tell me? What is she gonna say to me? Like, I'm gonna disappoint her so much. So that was like my main thought. Like, I was just so scared to tell my grandma. So I tried taking the easy way out. I told my mom I want to have an abortion, even though I'm highly against that. Like, if that's what you guys want, you know, go for it. That's your future, you know, like a baby changes everything in your life. So if you want an abortion, that's your decision. That nobody can tell you yes or no besides you. So this is my personal opinion. I do not believe in abortions. I do not think that they are right, but that's my opinion. Like, I'm not gonna go over here and telling this girl, you can't have an abortion, or whatever. But that is the route that I went through. I told my mom I wanted to have an abortion, even though I had begged my sister not to. And then I was telling her, I was like, how am I gonna do this when I begged my sister not to have an abortion, when I begged her to have a baby, you know? Like, how am I gonna do that when I told her that? So, but I still went to the office, and I told my mom, I want this, you know, like, I want to have an abortion, you know, like, I'm not ready to do this. So we went to the offices. It was nowhere around here. It was like in Pasadena, like on that side. It was like passing Pasadena, actually. So we went pretty far, and when I got there, I was so scared. Like, I was gonna do something that I didn't believe in, because I felt so scared and alone. And nobody should ever feel like that. Nobody should ever have the right to tell you, have an abortion. No, you can't have an abortion because that's your fault for having sex. So don't ever let no one tell you that. Because in that moment, when people were telling me that, when my closest friends were telling me that I cannot have an abortion because it was my fault, I felt alone. I felt like I couldn't talk to them about anything, and no one should ever feel like that. No one should ever tell you that you can't do this, that you can't do that because of what decisions you made. And nobody should ever feel continuing to where I went. So I went to a Planned Parenthood and I was ready. I was ready to go in. Oh baby. I went to a Planned Parenthood that was pretty far from my house. Like pretty far actually. So it was really far from my house actually. Ew, my shoulders. Okay, so I went to an abortion place, Planned Parenthood, that was pretty far from my house, and I was ready to sign the papers and everything, and then my mom asked me one more time. She was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I bursted out crying because that's something that I didn't want to do. That was something that I didn't believe in, and I was gonna go through with it, and I didn't want to, and I bursted out crying, and I told her no, but I told her, I was like, what is grandma gonna tell me? Like, I was so scared, you guys. I was so scared of what my grandma was gonna think. Like, that was what was on my mind. Like, that was what was on my mind. What my grandma's gonna tell me. What my grandma's gonna tell me. So, I didn't go through with it. And I thank God every day for my mom asking me again. Because if she wouldn't have asked me, I would have probably gone through with it. And then my mom was like, okay, like, she was like, let's get out of here. Like, this place isn't for us. And it wasn't for me. Honestly, it really wasn't for me. I don't believe in that. And I was gonna go through something that I didn't believe in. So, honestly, like, I'm glad that I didn't go through with it, because I have a blessing with me every day, every minute. She might cry, she might frustrate me a little bit, but that's perfectly fine, because at the end of the day, she's my best friend. She's my biggest blessing that I could have ever asked for. So the next week or so, after my mom's birthday, we had something for her at my grandma's house, and that day was the day I was gonna tell my grandma that I was pregnant. And I told her, and she got so mad at me. I remember everything that she said, and I felt so hurt because I betrayed the person that I loved most, and I felt so horrible because I knew that a pregnancy at a young age for her was wrong. And I should have been focusing in school, but I wasn't focusing in school. And I hurt my grandma super bad. And she was so mad at me. So mad. And I hurt her like horrible. And I left her house. I went home crying, and I was crying so much. I remember that day. I cried so much because I felt horrible. Like, I felt so bad. And then I think like 2 weeks after, we went to go do our toes. My mom took us to do our toes, and we took my grandma because we always take her. Well, most of the times we take her. Recently, I haven't been going with them just because I've been going on my own or with Mark. So that day we went with her, and I started talking to her. Like, I started asking her questions, like random questions, and then she started talking to me. At Jack in the Box, we started talking because we went to go get food because we hadn't eaten all day. So she started talking to me, and then she was like, and then my brothers, they were supportive. They were mad, of course, but they were there. My sisters were supportive. So yeah, and then that was how we felt, and how my mom felt, and how my family felt. Okay, so how was my pregnancy? My pregnancy was really tough. My pregnancy was really tough. I was always throwing up in the morning, in the afternoon, in the night. I was always throwing up. I was always sick. I couldn't eat anything without it coming back up and stuff. So I was always throwing up. I was always throwing up and stuff. So then my mom ended up buying me smoothies. They're like smoothie drinks that they sell at Food for Less or whatever. So I started drinking those and stuff because I couldn't eat anything. And I couldn't drink tea or anything. So I would eat some ginger candy. I would eat ginger candies and stuff. And they made me feel a little better. And crackers, those were my thing. Crackers and soda, ginger ale soda, I think that's what it's called. I would drink that like every day. And then little by little I would start getting my appetite back. But one thing was that I couldn't stand hot Cheetos. I couldn't stand them. Like I would eat them, like Mark would buy me them because I would want them, but like later I would throw them up and stuff. Like I would always be throwing them up. And stuff. So okay guys, so as I was saying, giving birth to Bella was something else because this little girl did not want to come out. So I got induced. So what that means is the hospital starts your labor. So the hospital starts your labor and everything. And they started my labor. So when I went in April 27th at like the night. Night. And then they put a balloon catheter in me and a pill. So when I went in, I was already having contractions, really big contractions. I can't show you because Mark has the pictures of my contraction thing, and I had them really big, but I wasn't feeling any of them. So even the doctors were asking me, they were like, you don't feel that, and I was like no, I don't. So the pain that I did feel was when they put the IV. That hurt like a bitch. So I wasn't feeling any of my contractions, and then they induced me, and it just felt like cramps, like really heavy cramps. And then I felt like cramps, like I was getting so many cramps. And then I wanted to get the IV medicine that puts you to sleep, but Mark was like, just get the epidural. And I was like, I want the IV medicine. And then he like either paid that nurse or something, because she came in and she was like, your contractions are back to back. They're really like strong or whatever. I suggest that you get the epidural. And I was like, this bitch, what the fuck? She must have gotten paid by Mark or something, because she came over here bragging about the fucking epidural. So then I was like, fine, I'll get it. And I got it. And honestly, it felt weird because it was cold and then hot. So it was like, and then so it fucks me up because I can't feel. I don't know if it's this one. Like this. Oh, it's this one. So I can't feel this after the epidural. So yeah, that's what happened when I got the epidural. I stopped feeling that. And yeah, excuse my mismatching socks. Didn't have time. I never do. So yeah, I got induced, and then we had to wait. I didn't feel my water break. I didn't feel anything because of the epidural. And then I gave birth around 8 p.m. 8:15 p.m. to be exact. Bella was born. So yeah, so Bella was born cold and not breathing, and that was really scary for me because I was so scared. I was like, and then the doctors were patting her and all that, and then she started breathing. And then I started bleeding out. That was super scary. And then my mom and Mark made it worse because they were like, you're fine, but they were making that face like you're not fine. And then Mark started making faces, and I was really scared because the faces he were making born cold and not breathing. So they had to, check everything. So they brought this other. So yeah, and then I was crying super bad because I was in so much pain. Like my IV was hurting so much, and I told the lady, and she didn't believe me, and then she believed me, and it was just super painful. And then I felt so much pressure when they were taking out the blood. Like I could see that his hand was like full of blood, like chunks, and he was like getting some and throwing it, and getting some and throwing it, and it was so scary. And I just felt so much pressure from the doctor pressing my stomach to get all the blood out and stuff. So they had to keep an eye on me. After again, they would have to take me down again. So yeah,